Did you know one of the greatest rap albums ever was recorded in a bedroom with a duct tape mic and no budget? Yeah. So way before Illmatic was hailed as the Bible of hip-hop, before Harvard taught courses on its lyrics, before it became the blueprint for street poetry, it started here, in a cramped room in Queensbridge, and a beat machine that barely had 10 seconds of sample time. There were no platinum plaques, and definitely no polished booth. Just one kid, one beat machine, and the kind of hunger that cut through the static. And behind that hunger was pain. Nas's childhood best friend, Ill Will, was gunned down before he got signed. He didn't just make an album, he wrote a eulogy. This is how Nas built Illmatic from heartbreak, hunger, and a dusty beat machine. This masterpiece was stitched together in bedrooms and stairwells under flickering lights and broken ceilings, on borrowed equipment, and in the heart of one of New York's toughest housing projects, Queensbridge. This is the untold story of how limitations became a legacy, a story of how Illmatic was built not with money, but with grit. Imagine being 20 years old, stuck in the belly of the largest housing project in America. No studio pass, no A&R interest, just sirens, shattered pavement, and a distant 7 train rattling the windows. For Nasir Jones, that chaos was rhythm. The cracked sidewalks were his canvas, and the verses were therapy. They were blueprints for survival. This was Queensbridge, one of the largest housing projects in America. Built in 1939, reshaped by white flight in the 50s, broken by crack in the 80s. By the 90s, it was a pressure cooker of poverty, violence, and poetry. MC Shan once said, "The bridge is where stars are born." And that's not just him flexing. Queensbridge gave us Marley Marl, Mobb Deep, Roxanne Shante, and then came Nas. Notebook in one hand, survival in the other. Inside those dim apartments, Nas padded the walls with old mattresses, rigged the mic with duct tape, and turned leaking ceilings into studio ambiance. His brother, Jungle, was his first hype man. His block was the audience, and the echoes in the stairwells were louder than applause. He handed out demo tapes with no promise of airplay, just a hope, a belief that the stories in his notebook, the ones written between paper routes and park bench battles, would travel farther than the elevators ever did. Queensbridge didn't just shape him, it was him. And the stories on Illmatic weren't just random lyrics that were recorded, it was his survival that was documented. But how do you turn a Queensbridge bedroom into hip-hop's holy ground? What came next would change rap forever. He was a kid with a trumpet-playing father, a prophet's pen, and ghosts whispering in every verse. One of them was Ill Will Graham, Nas' childhood best friend, who introduced him to hip-hop and was tragically gunned down in 1992. Nas never got over it, and he named his label after him. He wrote through the pain. Before Illmatic shook the rap world, it was just raw demos, dusty loops, and a mic duct taped to a stand. No Pro Tools, no auto-tune. Just a handful of producers with crates of vinyl, and Nas sitting in the dim rooms hunting for perfection. Large Professor saw it first, a young MC with razor-sharp bars and the hunger of someone who had nothing to lose. Their first sessions weren't glamorous. They were gritty, cramped, unfiltered. Sometimes the ambient sound of Queensbridge, the sirens, the laughter, the shouting, leaked into the mic, and Nas kept it in. From those early demos came a track called Halftime. Large Professor cooked it up at home with Busta Rhymes in the room. Busta passed on it, but Nas turned it into his first single. That was just the beginning. Soon, Nas brought in a dream team, DJ Premier, who dug in the crates like a surgeon, Pete Rock, whose boom bap could make you time travel, Q-Tip, who brought smooth soul into the chorus, LES, his childhood friend turned beatmaker, and Nas himself, crafting verses so dense, even the producers had to pause and ask, wait, what did he just say? DJ Premier says it best. He hit record. Nas went in. One take, boom. That single moment launched New York State of Mind. And the opening line, I don't know how to start this shit, wasn't scripted. Nas had just written the verse. He didn't know where the beat started, so he said exactly that. And that raw honesty became part of hip-hop folklore. In essence, New York State of Mind was both a love letter and a warning shot, a brutal poetic portrayal of Queensbridge. Every verse in Illmatic was born from the tension between beauty and brutality. While other kids were ducking cops or dodging beef, Nas was filling notebooks with sweet symphonies. He wasn't chasing stardom, he was chasing respect. Ciphers were therapy, notebooks were lifelines, and every bar had to hit the chest. When Nas was 17, he dropped a verse on Live at the Barbecue that made people freeze. "I went to hell for snuffing Jesus." Faith Newman from Columbia Records heard it and said, "Get that kid in here." Even after landing the deal, he didn't rush the album. He wrote and rewrote lines deep into the night, reciting verses out loud to friends, testing how they landed. He treated Illmatic like scripture. AZ wasn't even supposed to be on the album, but when he dropped his verse, they hit record. Life's a Bitch was born. That trumpet outro, one take, one memory. Nas's real-life father, Oludara, closes the track like a jazz funeral for the block. So when Illmatic dropped in April 1994, it didn't go platinum. It didn't top the Billboard charts, and it didn't even have a radio hit, but it had an impact that was undeniable. I'm talking cultural, lyrical, and eternal. Back then, 5 mics from the source wasn't just a review. It was a coronation, and Illmatic got it. Only a handful of albums have ever had. It wasn't just New York's comeback after West Coast dominance. It was New York's heartbeat, and a 20-year-old street poet narrating urban decay with surgical precision. Just 10 tracks with no filler and skits, just pressure-packed excellence. Every bar felt like it had a pulse. Nas wasn't chasing club bangers or pop charts. He was writing eulogies. Every rapper who calls themselves a lyricist studied Illmatic. Kendrick once said, "Illmatic changed how he approached storytelling." Drake quoted Nas on stage. Even 30 years later, the album racks up millions of streams and fuels TikTok edits. It became scripture, a rite of passage, a mirror, and a measuring stick. Even Jay couldn't resist biting a few lines. And when your rivals are quoting you, just know that you've already won. Years have passed, and the charts have been forgotten. But the streets didn't, and neither did the culture. Illmatic still sells, plays, and still inspires. Nas once said the project used to feel like the whole world. Now, because of Illmatic, the world knows Queensbridge. He didn't just represent it, he immortalized it. Every siren, every scar, every silence between bars still echoes 30 years later. It was forged in survival, written in stairwells, recorded in bedrooms, and carved into hip-hop history. And as of 2024, it still sits among Rolling Stone's top 100 albums of all time. And just in case you are new here, this is Blueprints and Beats, where we show how legendary albums were built from nothing. If you want more stories of how classics were built from cracked ceilings and pure grit, hit subscribe. This isn't just music history, it's your blueprint. And while you're at it, check out our video on the studio that built Jay-Z's legacy.